I lay on my couch with a fever, staring at the clock while my family ignored my birthday dinner to celebrate my brother's huge job offer at a steakhouse downtown. When I showed up, feverish and hurt, he laughed and told me that winners eat steak, losers eat soup. He had no idea that the VP offer he was celebrating required one final signature, mine. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The silence in my apartment was heavy, broken only by the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall and my own ragged breathing. It was 7 o'clock on a Friday night. The table was set for 4. I had spent the last of my energy earlier that afternoon, before the fever spiked to 102, arranging the flowers and folding the napkins into crisp, perfect triangles. It was my 34th birthday. I sat on the edge of the sofa, clutching a throw blanket around my shivering shoulders. My phone sat on the coffee table, dark and silent. I had sent the reminder text at noon, dinner at 6:30, I made Mom's favorite roast. No reply. At 6:45, I had called my mother. It went to voicemail. At 7:00, I called my father. It rang and rang until the automated operator told me the mailbox was full. I looked at the dining table again. The roast chicken, now lukewarm, sat as a centerpiece of my humiliation. The candles I hadn't lit yet seemed to mock me. It wasn't just that they were late. My family was chronically late. It was the specific, gnawing feeling in my gut that had nothing to do with the flu ravaging my body. It was the intuition that I had been discarded. Again. I was the reliable one, the steady one. Elena, who works in HR or admin, as my mother liked to tell her friends. Elena, who didn't have a husband or children to brag about, just a job that paid the bills and an apartment that was too quiet. My brother, Ryan, was the sun around which my parents orbited. Ryan, who at 29 had started 4 businesses and failed at 5. Ryan, who needed capital and understanding and support. A notification chimed. My heart leaped, pathetic hope fluttering in my chest. I snatched the phone. It wasn't a text, it was an Instagram notification. My mother had posted a photo. I tapped it open, my fingers trembling. The image loaded, bright and high resolution. It was taken at the Gilded Chop, the most expensive steakhouse in the city, a place you had to book months in advance. There they were, my mother beaming with a glass of champagne raised high. My father looking flushed and proud. And in the center, Ryan, wearing a suit I had bought him for his last interview, grinning like a king on his coronation day. The caption read, "Celebrating our shining star. Ryan just landed the VP position. So proud of our successful boy, proud parents' success big league." There was no mention of me, no mention of the date, no mention that they were supposed to be at my house, eating the dinner I had cooked while battling the flu. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap, like a branch breaking. It was a quiet, structural failure, like a foundation finally giving way under years of rot. I stood up. The room spun, and I had to grab the back of the sofa to steady myself. My joints ached, and my head pounded with a sinus headache that felt like a drill behind my eyes. But the anger was hotter than the fever. "No," I whispered to the empty room, "not this time." I went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at my reflection. Pale, dark circles, glassy eyes, I looked like a ghost. I put on a coat over my lounge clothes, shoved my feet into boots, and grabbed my keys. The drive to the city center was a blur of red taillights and nausea. I shouldn't have been driving, but adrenaline is a powerful drug. I pulled up to the valet at the Gilded Chop. The valet looked at my modest sedan and then at me, sweating, shivering, eyes wild, with skepticism. I threw the keys at him and marched inside. The restaurant was warm, smelling of truffle oil and seared meat. The clinking of silverware and the hum of expensive conversation filled the air. I scanned the room. I saw them in a plush corner booth. A waiter was just pouring another bottle of wine. They looked like the perfect, happy family. I walked up to the table. My mother saw me first. Her smile faltered but didn't disappear. "Elena, what are you doing here? You look terrible." "Happy birthday to me," I rasped, my voice thick with congestion. My father looked at his watch. "Oh, is that today?" "We're celebrating, Elena," Ryan said, leaning back, his arm draped over the booth. He swirled his wine glass. "Don't bring your gloom over here. I just got the offer. VP of Strategy at Ethelgard Global, the big leagues." I froze. Ethelgard Global. My company. Yes. Specifically, the subsidiary I had been sent to restructure 3 months ago. "Ryan," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the fever. "You didn't tell me you applied to Ethelgard." "Why would I?" Ryan scoffed. "You work in what, filing? Logistics? This is executive level upper management. They need visionaries, not paper pushers." "We tried to call," my mother lied, easily and smoothly. "But we knew you wouldn't want to come out. You're always so tired. And this is a celebration for success." "I cooked," I said, the hurt bleeding through. "I made the roast you asked for, Mom." "Roast chicken," Ryan laughed. It was a cruel, barking sound. "Come on, Elle, look at this." He gestured to the massive tomahawk steak on his plate. "Winners eat steak. Losers eat soup at home." He looked me up and down, taking in my pale face and shivering frame. "Maybe if you were more successful," he sneered, "they'd show up for you, but let's be honest. Tonight is about the future, not whatever you are." The waiter approached, looking uncomfortable. "Can I get you a chair, ma'am?" I looked at Ryan. I looked at my parents, who were looking at their plates, avoiding my eyes, complicit in his cruelty because they believed his hype. They believed he was their ticket to a retirement in luxury. They believed I was nothing. I smiled. It must have looked terrifying on my feverish face. "No," I said. "I'm not staying. I just wanted to see what was more important than your daughter." "Don't be dramatic," my father grumbled. "Ryan's offer is conditional. He needs to keep his head in the game. We need to support him." "Conditional," I repeated. "Yes, it usually is." "It's a formality," Ryan waved a hand dismissively. "Background check, final executive sign-off, rubber stamp stuff. I charmed the hiring manager. It's in the bag." "Enjoy the steak, Ryan," I said softly. "Savor it." I turned and walked away. As I pushed through the heavy oak doors back into the cold night air, the betrayal settled deep in my bones, heavier than the sickness. But beneath the hurt, a cold, steel resolve was forming. Ryan thought he was a winner. He thought the world was his oyster because he could charm a middle manager. But he had forgotten one crucial thing. He didn't know who signed the checks. He didn't know that the final executive sign-off for all VP-level hires at Ethelgard Global wasn't a rubber stamp. It was a person. It was me. The drive back to my apartment was agonizing. The adrenaline that had fueled my storming of the castle had evaporated, leaving me trembling violently. My teeth chattered so hard my jaw ached. Every street lamp blurred into a starburst of pain behind my eyes. When I finally stumbled through my front door, the smell of the cold roast chicken hit me, a scent of grease and sage that made my stomach turn. I didn't bother cleaning up. I left the table set, a shrine to a dead relationship, and collapsed into bed fully clothed. The fever dreams that night were vivid and cruel. I dreamt of being a child, standing on a stage in a school auditorium, holding a first-place trophy for a spelling bee. In the audience, the seats were empty. In the dream, I could hear laughter coming from the parking lot, where my parents were buying ice cream for Ryan because he had scraped his knee. I woke up Saturday morning in a pool of sweat. My fever had broken, leaving me weak and hollowed out. The sun was streaming aggressively through the blinds, indifferent to my misery. I reached for my phone. 3 texts. "Mom, 10:30 a.m. You really embarrassed us last night, storming in like that. We'll come by next week for cake if you're feeling less dramatic." Dad, 10:32 a.m. Ryan is under a lot of pressure. You need to be more supportive. He's going to take care of us all. Ryan, 11:00 a.m. Hey sis, put in a good word for me if you know anyone in the mailroom at Ethelgard. LOL. Seriously though, don't be sour. I'll buy you a new purse when my signing bonus hits. I stared at the ceiling. The audacity was breathtaking. It was almost impressive how completely they had crafted a reality where I was the villain for existing. I dragged myself to the kitchen to make tea. As the kettle boiled, I sat at the island and opened my laptop. I needed to see it in black and white. I logged into the secure Ethelgard executive portal. My credentials, E. Vance, Senior Vice President, Global Talent and Organizational Strategy, flashed on the screen. I wasn't just HR. I wasn't admin. I was one of the 5 most powerful people in the conglomerate. I reported directly to the C-suite. My salary was triple what Ryan thought he was going to make. I had paid off my parents' mortgage 3 years ago anonymously, funneling it through a banking error settlement so they wouldn't feel indebted to me. I had paid for Ryan's last 2 failed startups under the guise of an angel investor group. I had kept it secret because I wanted them to owe me, not my wallet. I wanted a relationship based on family, not finance. Clearly, that was a failed experiment. I navigated to the pending hires executive level dashboard. There it was, Ryan Vance. Position, VP of Strategic Partnerships, North American Division. Status pending final approval. Approver, E. Vance. I clicked on his file. The resume was a work of fiction. He had inflated his role at his last failed startup from founder to CEO of a multinational logistics firm. He listed skills he didn't have and references from friends he'd likely coached to lie. But the interview notes were glowing. Interviewer, Marcus Thorne, Regional Director. Notes, candidate is charismatic, confident, and shows great ambition. Strong cultural fit for the sales aggressiveness we need. Marcus Thorne, I knew him. He was a bro's bro, the kind of manager who mistook arrogance for competence. Ryan would have played him like a fiddle. I took a sip of tea. It soothed my raw throat, but nothing could soothe the raw ache in my chest. I called Chloe. Chloe was my best friend since college, and coincidentally, my personal attorney. Happy belated birthday, Chloe chirped. I assume you're calling to tell me what fabulous gift your family got you. They got me a reality check, I croaked. Chloe's tone instantly shifted. You sound sick. What happened? I told her everything. The ghosting, the steakhouse, the losers eat soup comment. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, a low, dangerous sound. Elena, tell me you are going to destroy him. He's in the queue, Chloe, I said, looking at the screen. His job offer is literally sitting on my screen right now, waiting for my digital signature. Oh my God, Chloe breathed. Do they know? No, they think I'm a secretary. Ryan told me to put in a good word with the mailroom. This is it, Elle, Chloe said, her lawyer voice kicking in. This isn't just about being mean. If he's this arrogant to his own sister, imagine the liability he is to the company. You have a fiduciary duty to reject him. I know, I said, but I don't want to just reject him. I want him to understand. I want them all to understand. What are you going to do? I looked at the approve and reject buttons. They looked so simple. 2 little pixels that controlled my brother's destiny. I'm going to wait, I said. He said the offer is conditional on a background check. I'm going to run a deep one. The kind we usually reserve for C-suite. And then, I'm going to invite him for a meeting. A meeting. He needs to sign his contract, I said, a cold smile touching my lips for the first time in 24 hours. And he thinks the executive in charge is just a rubber stamp. Elena, Chloe warned, though I could hear the excitement in her voice. Be careful, they're going to hate you when this blows up. They already don't care about me, Chloe, I whispered, looking at the dead flowers on my dining table. They only care about the winner, so I'm going to show them who the winner actually is. I closed the laptop. The headache was still there, but the helplessness was gone. Ryan had started a war on my birthday. He had no idea he had just invaded a superpower. To understand why the steakhouse incident broke me, you have to understand the ecosystem of the Vance family. I was the firstborn. I was the practice child. My parents were strict with me. Grades had to be perfect, chores had to be done immediately, and gratitude was mandatory. I worked from the age of 16, paying for my own gas, my own clothes, and eventually my own college tuition through scholarships and 3 part-time jobs. Then, 5 years later, came Ryan. Ryan was the miracle, the golden boy. By the time he was born, my father's small business had started doing slightly better, so Ryan didn't get the struggle. He got the surplus. If I got a B+, I was grounded. If Ryan got a C, it was the teacher's fault for not understanding his creative genius. If I wanted a car, I was told to get a job. When Ryan turned 16, they leased him a Mustang because appearance matters. I spent my 20s climbing the corporate ladder, working 80-hour weeks, missing holidays, sacrificing relationships, and building a reputation as a fixer. The person you call when a department is failing and needs a surgical turnaround. Ryan spent his 20s chasing opportunities. There was the crypto mining phase, cost my parents $10K. The dropshipping empire cost them $15K and a garage full of unsellable phone cases. The DJ career. Throughout it all, I was the safety net they didn't acknowledge. When Mom needed surgery, I paid the deductible. Insurance covered it, I told them, so my dad wouldn't feel emasculated. When Dad's truck broke down, I won a raffle for a mechanic's voucher. I wanted them to be proud of me. But every time I tried to talk about my promotions, my mother's eyes would glaze off. That's nice, dear. Very organized. Oh, did you hear Ryan is thinking about becoming a real estate tycoon? Sunday afternoon, 2 days after the birthday disaster, I went to my parents' house. I needed to retrieve a casserole dish, but really I was testing the waters. The house was buzzing. Ryan was there, sitting at the kitchen table with a laptop, looking busy. My mother was making sandwiches. "Oh, Alina," Mom said, not looking up from the ham. "Feeling better? You really shouldn't go out if you're contagious." "I'm fine," I said, leaning against the counter. "Just a 24-hour bug." "Ryan is looking at condos," my father beamed from the living room, "near the new office." "The penthouse at the Vantage is sick," Ryan said, not looking at me. "It's $3,000 a month, but with my new salary, that's pocket change." "You haven't signed the contract yet, Ryan," I said quietly. Ryan spun his chair around. "Why are you such a hater? You know, Marcus, that's the hiring manager, said I'm exactly the kind of disruptor the company needs. He said the current leadership is stale, old guard." "Stale," I repeated. "Yeah, bureaucrats, people who care about compliance and procedure." I told him, "I don't follow rules, I make them." Ryan laughed. He loved it. My stomach tightened. He had openly admitted to disregarding compliance in an interview, and Marcus Thorne, that idiot, had eaten it up. "What exactly is this job, Ryan?" I asked. "VP of Strategy is a big title." "It's about synergy," Ryan said vaguely. "Connecting high-level partners, leveraging assets, big picture stuff. You wouldn't get it, Elle. It's not about filling out spreadsheets." "It pays 200,000 base," my mother interjected, her voice trembling with reverence. "Can you imagine, our Ryan?" "Plus bonuses," Ryan added. "I'm already looking at a new BMW. The leasing guy said he can hold it until Friday." "You're spending money you don't have," I warned. "It's an investment in my image," Ryan snapped. "God, you sound just like Dad used to before I showed him the light. You have a scarcity mindset, Alina. That's why you're stuck in middle management." He stood up and walked over to me, looking down. He was tall, handsome in a superficial way, with the confident smile of a man who has never truly faced a consequence. "Look," he said, lowering his voice so our parents wouldn't hear. "I know you're jealous. You've been grinding away for 10 years and I swoop in and pass you in one jump. But don't be a bitch about it. Just be happy for me. Maybe I can get you hired as my assistant or something. You're good at details. He patted my shoulder. It was a patronizing, dismissive pat. The anger I felt wasn't hot anymore. It was cold. Absolute zero. I'm not jealous, Ryan, I said, staring into his eyes. I'm worried. Ethelgard has very strict standards, integrity standards. He laughed. Integrity, please, it's a corporation. The only standard is profit, and I'm going to make them a fortune. We'll see, I said. I grabbed my casserole dish and left. As I walked to my car, I heard them laughing inside. They were celebrating a victory that hadn't happened yet, built on a foundation of lies, funded by debt, and awaiting the approval of the daughter they despised. They thought the universe had finally rewarded Ryan for being special. They didn't realize the universe was actually a 34-year-old woman with a fever and a laptop, and she was done being the doormat. Monday morning, I walked into the Ethelgard headquarters. The glass and steel tower rose 50 stories above the city. The security guard, Frank, nodded as I approached. "Good morning, Ms. Vance," he said, opening the private elevator bank reserved for executives. "Morning, Frank," I smiled. I rode the elevator to the 48th floor. The air up here was different, quiet, conditioned, smelling of expensive coffee and anxiety. My assistant, Sarah, was already at her desk outside my office. "Good morning, Alina," she said. "You have the budget review at 10, and legal wants a word about the merger." "Cancel the budget review," I said, placing my bag on my desk. "And get me the full raw file on the candidate Ryan Vance from the North American subsidiary hiring portal, not just the summary. I want the raw interview transcripts, the initial screening notes, and I want you to trigger a level 5 background check." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Level 5? That's forensic accounting and social media scraping. Is he a security risk?" "He might be," I said. "He's also my brother." Sarah's eyes widened. She knew about my family. She knew why I worked late on holidays. She nodded slowly. "I'll have it on your desk in an hour." I sat in my ergonomic chair, looking out over the city. Somewhere down there, Ryan was probably test driving that BMW. When the file arrived, it was worse than I thought. The transcript of his interview with Marcus Thorne was nauseating. R. Yan, at my last company, I managed a team of 50. We grew revenue by 200%. Fact, his last company was him and a friend in a garage, and they went bankrupt owing $40K. Ryan, I have a master's in economics from state. Fact, he dropped out sophomore year. He didn't even have a bachelor's. I circled the lie in red pen. He had lied about his degree. That alone was grounds for immediate disqualification. Ethelgard policy was zero tolerance on credential fraud. But then I found something more disturbing. The background check flagged his credit. He wasn't just in debt, he was drowning. $80,000 in credit card debt, a defaulted business loan co-signed by my father, which I didn't know about. And, most damning of all, a pending lawsuit from a former business partner for misappropriation of funds. He wasn't looking for a job, he was looking for a bailout. If I approved this hire, he would have access to sensitive corporate accounts. With his history and his desperation, he was a walking embezzlement risk. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was professional suicide to hire him. I picked up the phone and dialed Marcus Thorne's extension. "Thorne here," he answered, his voice booming. "Marcus, this is Alina Vance, SVP of Strategy." There was a pause, a nervous shuffle. "Oh, Ms. Vance, to what do I owe the pleasure? Usually I just get emails from your team." "I'm reviewing your VP candidate, Ryan Vance." "Ah yes, top-tier talent, a real shark. Related to you, I assume, same last name." "Yes," I said coolly. "Did you verify his degree, Marcus?" "Well, HR usually handles that, but he was so impressive in the room, I told them to fast-track it. We didn't want to lose him to a competitor." "He doesn't have a degree, Marcus. He dropped out at 20. A silence. "And," I continued, "he has a pending lawsuit for fraud." I didn't know, Marcus stammered. He presented himself as. He lied, I said, and you bought it because he flattered you. This reflects poorly on your judgment, Marcus. I can pull the offer immediately, Marcus said, panic rising. I'll call him right now. No, I said. Do not call him, do not give him a heads up. I want to handle this personally. Does he know I work here? I mentioned the SVP Vance would be doing the final sign-off. He said, "Oh, that's my sister, she'll rubber stamp it." He made it sound like you two were close, like it was a done deal. My grip on the phone tightened. He had used my name. He had leveraged my reputation to bypass scrutiny, all while mocking me to my face. Keep the scheduled onboarding meeting for Friday, I instructed. But change the location. Move it to the executive boardroom on the 48th floor. Tell him it's for the ceremonial signing. Understood, Ms. Vance. I hung up. I looked at the file again. The level 5 check had also pulled his recent social media activity. A tweet from 2 hours ago just bought the bimmer. VP's ride in style. New job money moves. He had signed the lease. He had spent the money he didn't have yet. I felt a twinge of guilt. It was a small, pathetic thing, a remnant of the sister who used to bandage his scraped knees. If I did this, I would ruin him. He would lose the car, the apartment deposit, everything. Then I remembered the birthday dinner. Maybe if you were more successful, they'd show up. He had defined the rules of the game. He wanted to play by the rules of success. And in the world of success, fraud has consequences. I pressed the intercom. Sarah, schedule a new hire orientation slot on my calendar for Friday at 2 p.m. Attendee, Ryan Vance. Done, Sarah said. Should I order catering? No, I said, just water, ice cold. The week dragged on with excruciating slowness. My fever was gone, replaced by a razor-sharp clarity. I went to work, I did my job, and I watched the train wreck approach in slow motion. Wednesday night, my mother called. Elena, we need to talk, she said. Her voice was tight. What's wrong? It's Ryan. The dealership needs a larger down payment for the car because of his credit history. He needs $5,000 just until his signing bonus clears on Friday. I closed my eyes, and we don't have it liquid right now, she admitted. Your father's pension doesn't come in until the 1st. We need you to loan it to him. Loan, I repeated, like the other loans. This is different. He has the job. He showed us the offer letter. $200,000 a year, Elena. He can pay you back next week with interest. Don't be petty just because you're jealous. I'm not giving him money, Mom. Elena, he needs this car to look the part. You want him to show up to his VP job in that old Honda? You are sabotaging him. He hasn't signed the contract yet, Mom. Anything can happen. You are so negative, she shouted. You can't stand that he's finally surpassed you. Fine, we'll ask Uncle Jerry. She hung up. They were borrowing money from Extended. Family now. The blast radius was growing. I almost called her back to warn her to tell her to stop, but I knew she wouldn't listen. She would just tell Ryan, and he would spin another lie to cover his tracks. Friday arrived. I dressed with meticulous care. A tailored charcoal suit, stilettos, and my hair pulled back in a severe, commanding bun. I wore the expensive watch I usually left at home to avoid making my dad feel bad. Today, I looked every inch the senior vice president. At 1:45 p.m., Sarah buzzed me. He's here, he's in the lobby, he's wearing a tuxedo. I blinked. A tuxedo. Yeah, with a bow tie. He looks like he's going to prom. I almost laughed. Send him up to the boardroom, have Marcus meet him there. I waited 10 minutes. I wanted him to sit in that room, to feel the weight of the mahogany table, the view of the skyline, the silence of real power. At 2:00 p.m., I walked down the hall. I pushed open the double glass doors of the boardroom. Ryan was sitting at the head of the table, feet up on the leather chair next to him. He was indeed wearing a tuxedo, a cheap rental that didn't fit quite right. Marcus Thorne was sitting nervously to his right, clutching a folder. When I walked in, Ryan didn't take his feet down. He grinned. "Elle, what are you doing here? Did you come to bring us coffee?" He laughed, looking at Marcus. "See, I told you my sister works here. Supportive, right?" Marcus looked pale. He looked at me, then at Ryan. He didn't laugh. "Feet down, Ryan," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it projected across the room with the authority of a decade of boardroom battles. Ryan rolled his eyes but dropped his feet. "Relax, sis, I'm the VP. I can put my feet where I want." I walked to the other end of the table, the seat reserved for the CEO or the highest-ranking officer. I set my file down. "Marcus," I said, not looking at him, "please read the agenda for this meeting." Marcus cleared his throat. His hands were shaking. Agenda Item 1, Final Review of Candidate Qualifications. Agenda Item 2, Executive Determination on Offer Status. Ryan frowned. "Review, I thought this was the signing. I have the pen right here." He pulled a gold-plated pen from his pocket. "And why is she running the meeting? Isn't there a boss coming?" "I am the boss, Ryan," I said. Ryan scoffed. "Yeah, okay, you're the boss of what? The party planning committee." "Marcus," I said sharply, "please introduce me to the candidate." Marcus stood up. He looked like he wanted to vanish. "Ryan, this is Alina Vance, Senior Vice President of Global Talent and Organizational Strategy. She is the head of the hiring committee for all executive positions in North America. She is my boss's boss." The silence that followed was absolute. Ryan looked at Marcus. He looked at me. He looked at the plaque on the wall behind me that listed the executive officers. E. Vance, SVP. His smirk faltered, twitching into a confused grimace. "What? No, Mom said you work in HR." "I run HR, Ryan, among other things." He sat back, trying to recover his composure. "Okay, wow, secret billionaire. Cool, so? This is great, keep it in the family. Just slide that contract over and I'll sign it. We can go get drinks after. My treat." "There is no contract, Ryan," I said. I opened the folder. "We ran your background check." Ryan's face went gray. I can explain the credit score. It's a misunderstanding. Identity theft." "It's not just the credit score," I said. "It's the degree you don't have, the company you didn't run, the lawsuit you didn't disclose." "That lawsuit is frivolous," he shouted, standing up. "My partner screwed me. I'm the victim." "And the degree?" I asked calmly. "I learned more on the streets than in a classroom," he yelled, slamming his hand on the table. "Who cares about a piece of paper? I can do this job." "You lied," I said, "on a legal document that is fraud." "So what?" he sneered, his handsome face twisting into something ugly. "You're going to tank my big break over a technicality? I'm your brother. You're supposed to help me." "I have helped you," I said. "I paid off your startup debts. I paid off Mom and Dad's mortgage. I have been helping you for years." He laughed incredulously. "You don't have that kind of money." "I make $400,000 a year, Ryan, plus bonuses." He stopped. The number hit him like a physical blow. The jealousy flared in his eyes, hot and toxic. "You bitch," he spat. "You sat there at dinner, watching us, knowing this, you hid this from us." "I didn't want you to love me for my money," I said sadly. "And you proved I was right. You treated me like garbage because you thought I was poor." "I treated you like garbage because you're boring," he screamed. "You're a soulless corporate drone, and now you're trying to sabotage me because I'm finally going to shine brighter than you." "You aren't shining, Ryan," I said softly. "You." "Ray stealing, and I'm stopping it." The air in the boardroom was toxic. Ryan was pacing now, his tuxedo looking increasingly ridiculous as he sweated through the shirt. "You can't do this," he said, pointing a finger at me. "I already leased the car. I put a deposit on the apartment. I told everyone." "That was premature," I said. "You have to fix this," he demanded. "Just sign the paper. Who's going to know? It's just us in here. Marcus won't talk, right, Marcus?" He turned on Marcus with a menacing look. Marcus flinched. It's against policy, Marcus squeaked. Screw policy, Ryan shouted. We're family, Elena, listen to me. If you don't sign this, I'm ruined. I owe people money. Bad people, if I don't get this signing bonus. He stopped, realizing he had said too much. I leaned forward. What people, Ryan? He slumped into the chair, burying his face in his hands. The arrogant executive act crumbled, revealing the desperate child beneath. Bookies, loan sharks. I got into sports betting. I thought I could win it back. I owe 50 grand. They said if I don't pay by next week. I stared at him. It was worse than I thought. He hadn't just lied for ego, he was desperate. And you were going to use the company signing bonus to pay gambling debts? I asked. I was going to pay it back, he pleaded. Once I started getting the salary, I just needed the bridge. That is embezzlement, Ryan, premeditated. I'm your brother, he wailed. You have to save me. Mom and Dad will never forgive you if you let me drown. Mom and Dad don't know the truth, I said. They think you're a genius. They don't know you're a gambler and a fraud. If you tell them, he hissed, looking up with sudden venom, I'll deny it. I'll tell them you sabotaged me out of spite. I'll tell them you were jealous. Who do you think they'll believe? The golden boy or the bitter spinster? He was right, they would believe him. They always did. Unless I showed them undeniable proof. I'm not going to tell them, I said. You are. I'm not telling them anything, he crossed his arms. You're going to sign this offer, or I'm going to make your life a living hell. I'll come to your office every day. I'll harass your staff. I'll make a scene. He was trying to blackmail me, in my own boardroom. I looked at Marcus. Marcus, you're dismissed. Leave the file. Marcus scrambled out of the room like the building was on fire. Once we were alone, I looked at Ryan. You think you have leverage, you don't. I pulled out my phone. I'm going to call Mom and Dad. I'm going to put them on speaker. And you are going to tell them that you didn't get the job. No, he panicked. Don't call them. I'm calling them. I hit the speed dial. It rang twice. Hello, my mother's voice was cheerful. Elena, did you transfer the money for the car yet? Hi, Mom, I said, keeping my eyes on Ryan. I'm here with Ryan at Ethelgard. Oh, is the signing done? Are we celebrating? Ryan has some news, I said. Ryan stared at me, sweat dripping down his temple. He shook his head frantically. Ryan, Mom asked, honey. He looked at the phone, then at me. He saw the resolve in my eyes. He knew I held the cards, but his ego was a survival mechanism. He couldn't let go. Mom, Ryan said, his voice trembling. Elena is blocking it. What? Mom's voice turned sharp. She's the boss, Mom. She's the SVP. She's sitting here telling me I can't have the job because of my credit score. Elena, my father's voice roared from the background. What the hell are you doing? You're letting a credit score stop your brother's career. He lied about his degree, Dad, I said calmly. He lied about his past jobs, and he has gambling debts. Lies, Ryan shouted at the phone. She's lying. She's just jealous because I'm going to make more money than her. I make double what he would have made, I corrected. See, Ryan yelled. She's rubbing it in, she's power tripping. Elena, my mother hissed. Fix this. Now, I don't care what titles you have. He is your brother. If you don't hire him, don't bother coming to Christmas. Don't bother calling us. You are dead to us. The words hung in the air. Dead to us. It was the ultimatum I had been waiting for my whole life, really. The confirmation that my value was purely transactional. I felt a strange sense of peace. Okay, I said, if that's your choice. I hung up the phone. Ryan looked at me, a smug grin returning to his face. See, you can't win against them. Just sign the paper, Elle. Don't lose your family over this. He thought he had won. He thought the threat of exile would break me. You're right, I said, standing up. I can't win against them, but I don't have to play. I picked up the file. The answer is no, Ryan. The offer is rescinded. Officially, I'm flagging your name in the system. You will never work for Ethelgard or any of our subsidiaries. Security is waiting to escort you out. Ryan's jaw dropped. You can't, Mom said. Mom doesn't work here, I said, and neither do you. Ryan lunged across the table. It was a desperate, clumsy move. He grabbed for the file, maybe thinking if he destroyed the evidence, the rejection wouldn't be real. Give it to me, he screamed. I stepped back. The door opened instantly. Frank and 2 other security officers were there. They had been waiting on my signal. Mr. Vance, Frank said, his voice deep and authoritative. Step away from Ms. Vance. Ryan froze. He looked at the guards, big men in dark uniforms. The reality of the physical world was finally crashing into his delusion. She's my sister, Ryan sputtered. We're just having a disagreement. You are trespassing, I said coldly. Please escort him out. And Frank, he needs to return the visitor badge. Ryan was shaking as the guards grabbed his arms. The tuxedo bunched up around his shoulders. He looked like a child playing dress-up who had been caught stealing candy. You're ruining my life, he screamed as they dragged him toward the door. I'm going to lose the car, the apartment, the guys I owe money to, they're going to kill me. Then maybe you should have gotten a real job, I said. The doors swung shut. The silence returned to the boardroom. I stood there for a moment, my hand resting on the mahogany table. My heart was pounding, but my head was clear. I had done it. I had severed the limb to save the body. I went back to my office. Sarah was waiting, looking wide-eyed. Is he gone? Yes, I said. Draft a formal rejection letter. Cause, falsification of credentials and failure of background check. Send a copy to legal in case he tries to sue. You got it, Sarah said. She hesitated. Are you okay, Alina? I'm fine, I said, and I was surprised to find that I meant it. But the day wasn't over. When I got to the parking garage that evening, my parents were waiting by my car. They must have driven into the city the moment I hung up. My father looked furious. My mother looked tearful. You, my father growled, pointing a finger at me. How dare you? Ryan called us. He's hysterical. He says you had security throw him out like a criminal. He was acting like one, I said, unlocking my car door. He is your blood, my mother sobbed. He has debts, Alina, dangerous debts, if he doesn't get this job. Then you should help him, I said. You enabled him. You created this fantasy world where he never fails. Now reality is here. We don't have the money, my father shouted. You do, you said you make millions. I didn't say millions, I corrected. And yes, I have money, because I worked, because I didn't lie, because I didn't spend my 20s playing pretend. Give him the money, my father demanded. Pay off his debts, then we can forget this happened. I looked at them, really looked at them. I saw the fear in their eyes, not for me, but for the collapse of their golden child myth. They were terrified that if Ryan failed, they failed. No, I said. What? My father stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. It used to work when I was 12. It didn't work now. No, I repeated. I'm not paying his debts. I'm not giving him a job, and I'm not going to be your retirement plan anymore. What are you talking about? My mother asked. The mortgage, I said. That wasn't a bank error. That was me. The angel investor for Ryan's last startup, me. The mechanic voucher, me. They stared at me, slack-jawed. I have carried this family for 10 years, I said, my voice shaking with the release of a decade of secrets. And you didn't even notice. You skipped my birthday to celebrate a fraud. You told me I was a loser because I wasn't successful enough. I got into the car. I rolled down the window. I'm stopping the payments, I said. I'm selling the debt I hold on Ryan's failed companies to a collection agency, and I'm blocking your numbers. Alina, my mother screamed, grabbing the door handle. You can't do this. We're family. Families show up for birthdays, I said. I put the car in drive and pulled away, leaving them standing in the exhaust of the daughter they never bothered to know. The fallout was immediate and messy, but distant. Ryan lost the apartment deposit. He had to return the BMW 2 days later, losing his down payment. The investors he bragged about turned out to be his friends, who quickly abandoned him when the VP role evaporated. The loan sharks, they were real but not the movie villain type. They were predatory lenders. They garnered his wages, what little he made from his new job delivering pizzas. He had to move back in with our parents. My parents tried to contact me. They sent letters. They sent flying monkeys, aunties and cousins I hadn't spoken to in years calling to tell me I was heartless. I didn't engage, I changed my number. I moved to a new condo in a sec. Your building, closer to work. 3 months later, I was sitting in a cafe with Chloe. So, Chloe said, sipping her latte, I heard through the grapevine that Ryan is trying to sue Ethelgard for discrimination. I laughed. Let him try. Legal has a file on him 3 inches thick. He'd be laughed out of court. And your parents? Dad had to unretire, I said, stirring my tea. He's working part-time at the hardware store. They're managing. They have to actually budget now that the Magic Alina ferry isn't paying the bills. Do you miss them? Chloe asked gently. I thought about it. I thought about the empty table on my birthday. I thought about the cold soup and the fever. I miss the idea of them, I admitted. I miss having a family, but I don't miss them. Well, Chloe smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. You have us, and we never skip birthdays. She was right. For my 35th birthday, Chloe and my team at work threw me a surprise party. There was no steakhouse. We went to a karaoke bar. We ate nachos and sang terrible 80s ballads until our throats hurt. At one point, I looked around the room at the people laughing with me, not at me. People who respected me. People who knew exactly what I did and valued me for it. I checked my phone. No text from Mom. No text from Ryan asking for money. Just a notification from LinkedIn. Ryan Vance has viewed your profile. I smiled. I tapped the screen and hit block. Then I went back to the microphone. It was my turn to sing, and for the first time in my life, I finally had a voice.